Hey, what's going on, everyone? Long time no speak. I can only apologise for my short absence. The overwhelming amount of recent news. Not being able to decide on what to talk about, and me being distracted by near automata, which I'm enjoying, and also the topic about games being worth. Whatever it is something, I talked about 5 months ago, which I'll relink, because, I pretty much said everything I have to say about it in that video, or just go ahead and watch Mr. T's, or Terminator Juice's video on the topic, as they cover most of it there as well. All of this basically left me debating, for too long on what to create a video on, but sometimes, that happens. I'm sure you're used to me only doing a video once in a while by now, but I promise to try and make more effort for the future. And if you don't like the fact that I only do the odd video here and there, my response to that is simply...
Sue me, dickhead.
Joking aside, a lot has happened. I won't talk about Reggie retiring from the big end today. As I'll twist that into another topic. I'll tackle very soon. And I'd also like to talk about Tetris 99 in the near future, as I feel like I got some interesting ideas on that as well. But to get back into the flow of things, I thought I'd talk about something that no one else is talking about right now. At least I think they're not talking about. This has always been on my mind. But with the recent announcement of Link's Awakening and the wealth of exposed YouTubers and other unfortunate gamers who have never played this game, or perhaps even heard of it, it reminded me that the video game industry still remains very different from most forms of entertainment when it comes to older titles. If I walk up to my bookshelf, I can grab myself a physical copy of, say, The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, which was originally published in 1954. Of course, this isn't a copy from 1954. It's a reprint, a newer version of the original content made available for new readers or collectors. I could do the same for my personal favourite film ever made, which is Big Trouble in Little China. A film I originally owned on VHS, but still can get a physical copy of it on DVD and Blu-ray. Still the same content, still the same film, but reprinted for new and older viewers. Same goes for picking up a copy of Thriller by Michael Jackson, who we all know is the greatest entertainer to ever grace this planet. Scientific fact, people don't argue with me. The point is, old on you, you can still, for the most part, essentially walk into a retail shop and attain a brand new copy of a piece of entertainment, regardless of when it was released. But as we know, this doesn't happen with video games for the most part. My question is, should it be enforced? Now of course, enforce is a strong word, which could certainly sound like you're demanding that a company maintains the continued distribution of all their products, which, as we know, in video games, this can prove, very difficult and not very cost effective, especially with hardware. But still, with physical software, can it really be that hard or money draining? Would it be hard for Nintendo to produce, say, 1,000 physical copies of Link's Awakening for the original Game Boy? Have a number of copies available on their website, or perhaps ship some off to other retailers? Would these not sell, do you think? This is one of the major reasons why people get into retro gaming and collecting, right? Or buckle and buy Reproduction games and cases to house their loose cards or CDs. Because buying an original or official copy of an older title, especially many of the rarer ones, is just too expensive for many people. So they have to resort to other methods like pirated copies of these games, which will always continue anyway, but that shouldn't deter companies from continuing to produce their products. And this leads me further into the software itself, where games are no different from movies and books in terms of how they should be made available for continued resale whilst physical items still persist in this industry. Using Nintendo as an example, this is a company who take great pride in their creations, which is why their values are held throughout most of the generation, until Nintendo decided to add certain selling games to their player choice range, just like Sony do with their Platinum range of games. Games that have sold really well and are discounted in released cheaper cases to continue the sales of that software. Nintendo and other companies would love for you to be able to play their older games. It's the reason why they re-release anniversary editions, digital copies, HD versions, etc. Of these games. Do you really think people who still have a copy of their original version of Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, wouldn't also buy a version of it on another platform that might offer something slightly different, whether that's just in the hardware or the game itself? I own Link's Awakening on a 3DS as well as the original Game Boy. I'm not going to lie, if the original Game Boy game released on a Nintendo Switch as well, I'd get that as well. The option of owning an original physical copy as well as buying additional versions that are released later on other platforms is something we're all accustomed to in most entertainment fields. Just like I have a digital copy of Thriller as well as the physical copy. Consumers always multi-buy on things they want. That's nothing new. Some people would buy 2 copies of a new physical version of Link's Awakening, probably, one to use and the other to keep factory sealed. To my knowledge, most, if not all, game cartridges, like the original Game Boy, N64, Game Boy Advance, were all developed by Nintendo. And their disc-based consoles, like the GameCube, the Wii, and Wii U, were developed by Nintendo and Panasonic, I believe, as a partnership for proprietary disc, to help, prevent piracy, etc., etc. Is it unrealistic for Nintendo and Panasonic to produce more of these formats in smaller volumes? Would the cost of manufacturing at such smaller scales not be worth the effort just to produce a physical copy of their creations? That goes for other companies' software as well, who'd perhaps effectively have to buy these older formats, off Nintendo, Panasonic, or whatever, as well, in order to produce copies of their games, or perhaps form some sort of partnership with another company who'd control the manufacturing, much like you see with companies like Limited Run Games, who help with the manufacture and distribution of games that would otherwise not receive physical versions. Personally, I think it's important that a company continues to provide copies of the games they create, both physical and digital, just like every other industry. Me, I love my physical stuff. I'm not expecting them to release the physical game exactly as it was in its original form, as that doesn't happen hardly anywhere else, unless a premium cost is involved, but man, outside of licensing issues with a few games, I can't think of any other major reasons why this can't happen. How awesome would a video game store look then? If you could walk up to the into a video game shop, up to the N64 section, and pick up a copy of Super Mario 64 as an example. Not in the cardboard box anymore, because like I said, some things are just perhaps too unrealistic. But perhaps a smaller plastic case, one that has the same artwork on the front and back, yet the cartridge inside the case still fits perfectly into your N64 and plays exactly the same. And if anyone thinks that this might stop remakes or reimaginings, then I'd probably argue against you a little, because, for the most part, when these games are brought back onto newer systems, they have additional things that make it worthwhile buying again. Just like Mario 64 DS as an example in relation to Mario 64. Or you might think it would render SNES minis, etc. obsolete. But once again, people love having these options, and even someone like me, who owns most of the games on a SNES mini, I still bought one. Perhaps my love for physical media is making me blind to the continued creation of older physical games, especially cartridges of old. But hell, even with CDs and DVDs, you'd struggle to find brand new copies of some PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 games now, and they're only a few years old. Anyway, I think I'm done here. What are your thoughts? Do you feel game companies should always have a level of stock for physical versions of their games, regardless of their age? Just like other industries, or perhaps there's just too many cost issues, technological barriers, or even demand that prevents such things from happening. Personally, I think game companies have a consumer duty to keep stock at a certain level for repurchase of older games. As for the consoles, well, that's another story. That certainly has more barriers, than probably that's probably not worth the effort. Although once again, I'm sure something could be done on a limited run, smaller scale, at a certain price point, and the consumers would most likely be there. But as always, let me know your thoughts. Sorry for the delay in videos again. I'll kick myself in the butt and get some more content out for you people who always listen to me, and I appreciate it. I really do. But yeah, as always, thanks for listening, and I look forward to your comments below. Peace.